मेरा नया घर देखना एकदम ग्रीन बनेगा। ग्रीन मतलब बिजली के लिए सोलर पैनल्स लगेंगे, साफ हवा के लिए ग्रीन कवर, नेचुरल कंस्ट्रक्शन मटेरियल्स, वाटर कंजर्वेशन, सब कुछ।
अच्छा, अगर ऐसा है तो ये सपना पूरा करो यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया के साथ। गो फॉर यूनियन ग्रीन होम लोन। नो अपर लिमिट और इंटरेस्ट पे एडिशनल कंसेशन वाले स्पेशल होम लोन्स जो बने हैं खास ग्रीन होम्स के लिए। बना रहे हो ग्रीन होम तो लो यूनियन ग्रीन होम लोन फ्रॉम यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया। गुड पीपल टू बैंक विद।
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we do have some interesting news. Remember how we've been speaking about how ketamine has been used for depression and it's very fast acting? And Spravato was approved before the pandemic to be used. It's a ketamine-based type of antidepressant that helps kind of regulate the neurotransmitter glutamate. We don't know exactly how it helps with depression, but we think it kind of works in that mechanism. And you guys might know more than I do, but from what I've read, we're still learning a lot about it, but we believe, based on a lot of the studies we've had, that its action on glutamate and neurotransmitters in the brain can help modulate depression. But what made ketamine unique is it was fast acting. Most antidepressants out there take a few weeks to kick in. And so Spravato, even though it was FDA approved in, I believe, 2019 to be used in conjunction with other antidepressant therapy when somebody's really resistant to antidepressant therapy, it finally got approval to be used by itself and as a nasal spray by itself as monotherapy. We're also seeing some studies where it can work within 24 hours. Now, when somebody has depression, and we're talking about serious depression, and you tell them this medication we're giving them could take 2 weeks, a lot can happen in 2 weeks. And so with our high rates of suicide or high rates of people going to other medications or other substances to relieve their depression and then possibly overdosing, there has been this need in medicine to get something that could work very quickly. Now, for those of you with depression, you're like, where can I get some? Sign me up. Well, from what I understand, about 140,000 people worldwide are using this drug. In order to get it, though, it's only going to be, again, pharmaceutical. This isn't something over the counter. It has to be prescribed, but it has to be prescribed by a doctor who's trained in it and understands depression. It's not going to be everybody right at the outset. The Johnson & Johnson had sent out their press release. And so they are expecting this to grow. It is a nasal spray that the FDA has now approved as the first and only monotherapy for adults with major depressive disorder. But it might take a little while for everybody to be comfortable enough prescribing this. Also, they have to make sure that people don't abuse it. And so that's why it might not be as easy to get right out the gate. The risks of Spravato, according to Johnson & Johnson, are sedation risks, dissociation, respiratory depression, abuse, and misuse. So they say to facilitate safe and appropriate use, Spravato is only available through a restricted program called the Spravato Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategy, REMS program. Now, don't panic. For those of you with very resistant depression, most likely you're already under some care of a medical provider. And so if your current medication regimen isn't working, your provider may enroll you in this program. But it might take some time. So it's a fascinating concept. According to some of the studies, they found that some of the symptoms mitigated as early as 24 hours. And interestingly, it lasted for at least a month. Now, I don't think this medication is going to be for anything long-term use. But when somebody is struggling and somebody is having very, very highly resistant depression, which could happen as there's environmental changes or biomechanical changes or physiological changes, something like this could be just enough to get them out. They say that this major depressive disorder has a toll of at least 21 million adults in the U.S. 1/3 will not respond to oral antidepressants. So if somebody takes something, doesn't get better, feels worse, they may give up. They may give up on treatment. They may give up on seeing somebody. A major depressive disorder can affect their work, can affect their other health. They may turn to food. They may turn to fentanyl. They may turn to other things. So, or other substances. So this is huge. They say the approval was granted following the FDA priority review, supported by positive results from one of their randomized double-blind multi-center placebo-controlled study. And it demonstrated numerical improvements across all Montgomery-Åsberg Depression Rating Scale benchmarks by day 28. At week 4, 7.6% of patients taking placebo and 22.5% of patients actually taking the medication achieved remission. The 22.5 versus 7.6 is a big enough, very statistically significant difference. And to be able to use it alone as a standalone, the reason why that's all important and the reason why us doctors are all excited about something like that is because too many people are on multiple medications. So if they take one and not the other, or the medicines interact, or the more medications, the more complicated. So if something is simple and acting quick, that could work. Now, here's the thing. I'm optimistic. I'm hesitantly optimistic as it pertains to nasal spray treatments. There's been nasal spray vaccines. There's been nasal spray migraine medication. And for some people, it works. For other people, they don't like nasal spray, or they have irritation in their nose, or they get nosebleeds, or there's something that prevents them from doing it. We also don't know what the price point is. Johnson & Johnson has been struggling with their stocks, especially with all the lawsuits, regarding to the opiate crisis that was blamed on pharmaceutical companies, when I think a huge part of the blame was the border and countries and drug cartels bringing their drugs across. But something like this, may actually really help Johnson & Johnson, but even more so help us in terms of having more tools. I'm not, always on the pharmaceutical company side, but if a pharmaceutical company keeps taking a beating and goes under, they don't produce new drugs that we might need. And this drug could save lives. I don't know. I've never used this drug. I'm not in that program to prescribe because I work for a telemedicine company. But I am cautiously optimistic that this could be pretty cool. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
मेरा नया घर देखना एकदम ग्रीन बनेगा, ग्रीन मतलब बिजली के लिए सोलर पैनल्स लगेंगे, साफ हवा के लिए ग्रीन कवर, नेचुरल कंस्ट्रक्शन मटेरियल्स, वाटर कंजर्वेशन, सब कुछ।
अच्छा, अगर ऐसा है तो ये सपना पूरा करो यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया के साथ। गो फॉर यूनियन ग्रीन होम लोन। नो अपर लिमिट और इंटरेस्ट पे एडिशनल कंसेशन वाले स्पेशल होम लोन्स जो बने हैं खास ग्रीन होम्स के लिए। बना रहे हो ग्रीन होम तो लो यूनियन ग्रीन होम लोन फ्रॉम यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया। गुड पीपल टू बैंक विद।
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So I got a bone to pick here, and I'm actually going to be defending Mark Zuckerberg on this one. So the inauguration happened yesterday. It was very beautifully done. I think Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota, right, had organized it. It was a beautiful ceremony, but there was, I guess, this meme now, and there's a picture of Mark Zuckerberg appearing in a snapshot photo to ogle or be staring at Laura Sanchez's, Jeff Bezos' wife's, boobies. And when I heard this was happening, I remember there was that video of Bill Clinton just kind of staring, who we believe was staring at Melania. And Hillary Clinton has seen him stare, and she looks at him, and then you see him try to stare him down, and he doesn't even notice. And he's oblivious to her staring him down, and she just kind of looks off to the camera like, okay, I'm dealing with this again. But that was on video, and that was a very long stare. There's apparently Mark Zuckerberg, there's this picture of him looking down at Lauren Sanchez's boobies, which, by the way, should not have been out and about during inauguration. Okay, can I just say that outfit was inappropriate? She looked very nicely dressed, but this isn't a nighttime. This was kind of a business thing. You're wearing a suit, but like a bra top underneath. Come on. Sorry, but come on. You give us ladies a bad name when you do that. Hey, we know how to dress appropriately. There's other aspects to our physique that could be prioritized. Then do we always have to go for the boobies? But that's the way she likes to dress, whatever. Well, I decided to look at the video. Well, you couldn't not. It's all over Twitter, where Mark Zuckerberg, I guess, his attention gets turned. The eyes look down. We're talking less than a second, a millisecond. He looks up. He wasn't ogling. But they catch him in this picture that looks like he was sitting there staring for hours. And I have a problem with the way we have cameras now everywhere and the way people manipulate videos, where something is happening or there's a play. And I get you can catch that. In fact, I'm guilty of this. There was a lightning storm a couple years back in July, and I couldn't catch the lightning by a picture. So I decided to videotape the next 5-10 minutes, and there was a huge lightning strike. So I went to that part of the video. I was able to do a still and then catch it. And that's what a lot of people do. I think that's cheating. By the way, if you're trying to get a still photo, then you get credit for taking the photo at the right place at the right time. But what a lot of people do is they have a longer exposure time or a video, and then they grab it. And so a lot of what we see are captured, millisecond captures of everyday life. But when you see the picture in your mind, you're thinking that's how they looked. When I see all these old photos in black and white where people aren't smiling in the pictures, you're like, well, they were unhappy. No, they had to pose, so they had to stand and look like that. Whereas the pictures of me, I'm always like, so they're probably like, well, she's always pictures, it looks like me. I'm always animated. I'm always talking. I'm never shutting up. That's not me. Right? I do shut up once in a while. Might be when I'm sleeping, but I do. So these pictures are not representative. And I'm looking at this and I'm, no wonder we have such a false perception of reality and a false perception of life, because you grab these pictures and the brain makes it think like this is something that's long term. And, there's a lot of people who are scantily clad, dressed very suggestively. And so you look at it, you notice it because that's, it's not a blank shirt that just covers if the eyes, because fashionistas know how to draw the eye, whether it's triangles, whether it's, in fact, we talked about the human body. The reason why the human body looks the way it is it's for direction. The reason why boobies look like, big circles and stoplights or eyes or whatever, it's because that's to attract, the potential mate. And then genitalia have triangular sort of hair distribution as to focus you down, like that's where you're supposed to go. It's like an arrow. And so in nature, we are attracted to things that are round or pointed or whatever, because that kind of tells us where to go. And so of course it's going to draw the eyes. And people say, well, you're looking at me. Oh boy, guys are staring at me. Well, if your skirt, actually left was longer than the pelvis, your greater trochanters, if your skirt, could possibly go to your knees, maybe you won't have people staring at your thighs, or maybe, and I do think that there's a lot of individuals that are very, very, like I live in Las Vegas, so you see people walking around the hotels where you see their full buttocks, and they wear something sheer over it, acting like it's clothes, but they're basically naked under that sheer skirt. Everybody could see their butt, and it's if you're walking around looking naked. For those of us who are used to people who are clothed, we're going to look and go, what the heck is going on here? So one is, if you don't want to be looked at, try and cover it up. Okay. If you're on the verge of nakedness when you go out in public or to a Trump inauguration. But my issue is there's cameras everywhere, and people can catch and manipulate anything they want to. And so, I could be listening to somebody, and then I could bite my tongue, and then I could have this look like, oh, and somebody could catch that and say, this person hates the other person. Look at her grind her teeth or grit angrily. And I know you don't understand. There was something else going on. And there's always context. And we're not getting context. Zuckerberg was looking around. I think Jared Kushner came to sit down. And then he looked over at Bezos, and there's boobies in between all of that. Of course he's going to look down. And so for, the younger generation, there's a lot of individuals who are like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be on camera. Very interesting. We think a lot of people stay home because of COVID and all that. There's a growing population of people who don't want to be filmed. They don't want to be on film. And, I'm, on camera all the time. But when I was at Disneyland and there's people panning their video, I'm trying to get out of that because, I don't want to be mid-sentence and caught on film. And you are. And you can't. And I wonder what our rights are if somebody's filming something and you could say, please don't film me or delete that. I don't know what our rights are because somebody said, well, you're in public. So if you're in public, then if you scratch your butt or fix your bra or wipe your nose or try to clean out the booger, that's fair game. I'm noticing also a lot of nose pickers. Do you notice that? Whether it's a game, whether it's the inauguration parade, there's a lot of nose pickers on camera. And I get wiping your nose, where it gets dry. And then when it gets dry, it gets crusty. So you want to kind of blow your nose, but you can't. And it's itching you. So you try to rub it out. And that could get caught on camera like a nose pick. I don't know. I'm really kind of frustrated with that because I think it can brew a sort of obsession and a hysteria and a paranoia with, trying to avoid being on film and it's a shame there was somebody that was picking their nose at the inauguration parade yesterday. But people pick their nose. That's what happens. It's just that person got caught on camera. And that could ruin somebody. Now, right now, there's all these cameras showing that Mark Zuckerberg is a pervert. And I saw the video. He just looked in one direction. So I'm defending him. But it's a little too much. And are you allowed to, if somebody does sit next to you, and they have a big chest that is overflowing or barely supported by their blouse bra or bikini top or whatever they're wearing underneath a suit to try to look businesslike, are you allowed to say, I don't want to sit next to this person? It's because sadly these things catch the eye. I mean, you know how there must be hours and hours of video of me looking at a firefighter or a cop and looking like I'm just staring at them. Now, that actually did happen, though. So that's true. But for other people, it might not be. I just love men in uniform. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. It's going to be a very exciting first 100 days. I think Trump already in his first, 24, actually less than 24 hours as president has already done more than we saw, Biden did in 4 years. And he's doing a lot. There is going to be a lot of, shall we say, obstruction, or there's going to be challenges. There's going to be legal challenges to some of the things he has suggested. I think there's already lawsuits filed against Doge and Return to Work. But his executive orders, and he signed a lot with crowds cheering in the background, and he promised to do these things. And like Lannister, he makes good on his promises. So if he said he's going to have people come back to work, if he's going to secure the border, he wants to at least show that he did that. And by day one, this way, depending on what happens with Congress or the Senate, even though most of what he needs will have to have Congress approve it and get involved in order to, executive orders could be reversed. At least he could show day one that this is what he signed. And it was fascinating how he did that publicly. Now, I thought, that was actually a very good move. Because you'll see politicians, they'll go through all their pomp and circumstance, and they'll have then their beautiful, I guess there's a lot of balls and parties and things like that. And he, in the middle of all of that, said, I'm working. All right. And if, we're here for a parade, let me start working and signing these things now. And then apparently he went back to the Oval Office and again worked. Apparently Biden did leave him a note, which is customary to leave a note. Luckily he didn't read it on air just in case it was really private. Also, I don't know if Biden wrote it or somebody else. So I agree. Read it first and see if it's something you want to share. But the transition, went well. It's just, what are some of these executive orders? So we've spoken about some of the things that he had immediately initiated. But one thing that really brought a lot of applause was federal workers going back to work in the office. Now, if you're a federal worker, you probably didn't like it that much. Now, I worked for the government, and it would have been nice to work from home. But when I worked for the government, it was, they didn't have computers at the time, so you had to go in. And, maybe I had a migraine, maybe I wasn't feeling well, but I went in and I had to work, and I wasn't allowed to mess around. And because you were there, the boss could watch you. And so this came up. And see, here's the thing. If I could just give you guys advice, is don't wake up the sleeping giant. Don't ping the radar. We've had some systems in place that weren't that bad. But then all of a sudden, people took it to the next level. I understand how during COVID, you're like, how do we operate and not get an infectious disease? Okay, well, we stay home. Work from home. That's why that was implemented. And I love the idea that we do have a plan B if we need to. But people kept that plan B, just like with mail-in ballots. Well, I'm just going to sit by my mailbox and hope I get the piece of paper and then hope when I send it back. That's not how elections are done. You go into the voting booth. It's yours. It's your vote. There's only one vote per person. And so we took it to the next level. Mail-in ballots aren't bad. They're great for individuals who are overseas. They're great for individuals that are too ill to go to the ballot box. But it was never designed to be the majority of votes. Just like working remotely. I had surgery. And I asked my boss if I could review student videos, and I would look at everyone. I would grade everybody's paper. We're talking about big class sizes. And I would grade all their papers or all their videos. I'm like, look, I could do this at home because I have access. I'll show you my hours. And they're like, well, that's totally fine. So even before COVID, if you're showing that you're doing work, that's great. And that flexibility is awesome. But they ping the radar. How did federal workers ping the radar? Well, one is stuff wasn't getting done. And when you kept hearing from government agencies going, well, we need more staff, you're like, well, where is your staff? Another thing is this very expensive real estate that these federal offices operate on. These buildings were empty. And you're seeing all these pictures and videos of empty federal office buildings. Who's paying the mortgage? Who's paying the rent? We are. So now that you're because taxpayers are involved and we're hearing that taxes have to go up, we're at a deficit, we aren't bringing in enough money. And you're like, but then why are we paying all these workers to stay home? I want to work from home. Why do they get to? And so if the federal government is supposed to work and get things done, and maybe some of these people working from home are. I know I see patients from home and I do a good job. I mean, I'm working at 6 a.m. I'm working at 10 at night. There's proof that I'm working. You could tell I'm working. But a lot of people that work from home, catching up on Netflix, binging Squid Game, walking the dog, going to the gym. And so now bosses are trying to get people to come back and they can't. And now people, when they're interviewing, they're like, do you have flexibility? I need a work-life balance. And I get people needing a work-life balance. But if stuff isn't getting done, how many restaurants or stores or whatever, you're like, where's the staff? Where's the staff? Because these are places where it's boots on the ground employees. If people are looking for a job where they could sit at home and make money, that's going to start to change. It's going to be hard to make money watching TV at home. I know that's what you want, but an employer has to pay for that. Another thing that pinged the radar is people would work 2 full-time jobs and they double dipped. I would hear story after story of people saying, just bragging about it. So now they're getting double benefits. They're getting double insurance. And you're like, wait a second here. Are you really working the full 40-hour weeks? And now there's this big push for 4-day work weeks, 3.5-day work weeks. If you're doing the work, that's one thing. So I'm not exactly sure how this will be implemented. Trump has directed the federal agencies to, quote, take all necessary steps to terminate remote work arrangements and require employees to their respective duty stations full time. It's a 2-sentence order, and they said it shall be implemented consistent with applicable law. Now, does Trump have that ability? Well, this is interesting because we don't have a lot of precedent set. So we do have the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the Americans with Disabilities Act, you say you need to provide accommodations. Now, those accommodations might include remote work. But if those accommodations can be done on site and you're providing the accommodations, yeah, but I need to go to the bathroom a lot. I have irritable bowel. So I need to be by a bathroom. That's fine. We will allow you to go to the bathroom. Yeah, but it needs to be a private bathroom. It needs to be, so there's precedent set with the ADA. But in terms of, well, I want to work from home and I want, if you don't want to work, come to work, you don't have to. You could get another job that does do that. It's your right. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. From what I hear already, there's lawsuits. And 26% of federal employees are unionized. Many are covered by bargaining agreements that, remember, last year slipped in that remote work is fine. So for those 26% of federal employees, I believe the Trump administration has to wait, according to Reuters, until those agreements end. But I think some of them go through 2026 or 2029. But here's the thing. I would love I want everybody happy, but I also don't want us wasting money. If there's real estate that's not being used, either close that down or use it. If there's work not being done, get people back to work. And I think it's very, very simple. And what Trump is doing might actually help other employers who are really struggling to get people to come back to work a little bit of extra support. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions: Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I'm getting from a lot of baby boomers, Gen X's, and older millennials that they're a little nervous about their kids and how to advise them. Now, with college and schools being very, very different, in terms of a degree that may not matter, even if it's a great degree that might not get you anywhere. And you know, when some of the Gen Zs or younger millennials say, I don't need to get a college degree. Now later, the Generation Alphas, as we're going into now the first year of Generation Betas, there's this disconnect, because what I grew up with as a Gen X and what I thought life was going to be like and what I needed to do, boy, have things changed. I mean, when I grew up, you become a pilot or a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a homemaker and it was one thing. And you strive for that one thing, and you could take classes that help you make it to that one thing. And then you do an SAT, you get into college. And then once you get that degree, you're set. That's not what younger millennials and Gen Zs have, or Gen X's. And so you're going to get a lot of pushback from your younger family members saying, no, that's not how things work. So if they feel you're obsolete or giving them the wrong information, they're not going to go to you for information. One of the first things I told my kids when I started to notice a little bit of pushback, you know, when I wanted to give some advice, and they will, you know, because they think they know what I'm going to say. And I've made sure to always have some unpredictability, just so they're like, oh, okay, that's really good. But one of the first things I do and I open with is I explaining to them and engaging them by saying, yeah, your path is much different. What you guys, your challenges, way different from our generation. So what I learned and I was told doesn't really apply. They're like, yeah. Now they're going to listen. Remember I taught you guys about the 3 E's? Engage, educate, and enlist. Okay, I came up with that. Yes, thank you. Yeah, right. Engage. Nobody's going to listen unless you engage them. Yeah, like this also works for marketing. There's a sale. There's a president's sale coming up. Big red letters. You got to engage them. You have to capture them. Then once you've captured them, you can educate them. Now, we're selling cars for sale on President's Day weekend, or we're doing this. And then you want to enlist them. So come in on Monday. Or tune back into the Dr. Daliah Show tomorrow. So these 3 E's are successful for any sort of communication process. And so if I think my kids are like, oh, mom's going to tell me to go to college, or mom's going to tell me to do STEM, which is, science and technology and engineering and math and things like that. Mom's going to just tell me to do, I've lost them. And a lot of you have lost your kids. And you think that they won't listen to you, and now you feel like you can't help them for success. And so let me give you guys some advice, okay? And I know it's not easy. College and having a college degree, I still think is valuable. And my advice to my kids about that was, look, even if your degree might not weigh enough, it's still more in your wallet than a no degree. But if you're not going to get a college degree, then you better get certification. You better get a skill. You better get a license in something. But you are going to need things to build your career off of. And you're going to have accolades and certifications or a trade or something. And luckily, my kids listened to that. And I know a lot of their friends dropped out of school and they're like, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to do, well, that's fine. the second thing is do you have a dream? Do you have a goal? And what's the best way to get to that? Now, I was really nervous because my kids were growing up, hearing about Mark Zuckerberg, who left Harvard, left college, and then became, did what he did, or, Napster, or all these other, sort of people who decided to do opposite what the Gen X's and baby boomers did. And then these millennials became multi-billionaires. And I was really worried that that's what kind of started. I look at these influencers. I could just do something on YouTube. I don't have to go to school. I'll make more money on YouTube, or I'll make more money on Instagram. And there's a lot of people out there that are. And kudos to their success. But how do you compete when you never had Instagram? And you did, so you do have a lot of advice and a lot of great education to give. But you got to get them to listen to it. And if they think you don't know what you're talking about, they're not going to go to you. One thing you could do early on is make sure these kids get practical experience. What really I think is the key to success is you being open and sharing with them stories of like what happened to you. Like there was a job I applied for and I got, and I was in the room and the group of people said yes to everything. Yes to what I wanted to do with the local TV. Yes to what I wanted to teach. Yes to whatever. Yes, yes, yes. And then the second the contract was signed, everything was completely switched off. Yeah, and I was even told that my job description was wrong. I go, but it's in writing. Sorry. And so stories like that, can be very, very helpful when somebody's like, well, I'm going to apply for a job and I'm not going to take the job unless they promise X, Y, and Z. Even if they put it in writing, they could still rescind. And so you need, if you want your children to be successful, you need to let them know about, now they might think there's a narrative. They might think you're just trying to push something, saying, okay, well, you're going to tell us that a friend got an STD because you don't want me having sex. You want me wearing condoms. I know. So this is how I taught my kids about STDs. I showed them pictures in my gynecology textbook, not my gynecology, not me. How it's scary. But it was a gynecology textbook and pictures of what they say. I showed that was all they needed. I go, look, this isn't a narrative. This isn't me trying to push, celibacy or abstinence. These are things that are out there, and I want you to see it. And I thought visual graphics would be really, really good. But, right now there's a lot of fake. We just talked about these pictures and snapshots of things that make it seem reality, but it's not. What's on social media now, a lot of things are AI generated, and they're really losing a lot of the grasp of reality that they need. And if they aren't, most of us, we had to work in fast food. And boy, did that teach us for real life. We learned what it's like to work for a manager. We went to work for a boss. We learned about corporations. We learned about customers. We learned about somebody stealing and trying to blame it on you. We learned about, how to try to sneak a French fry, but then how you could get in trouble for that. We learned how to manage our money. Now the average kid is not working in fast food. They aren't having a part-time job in school. They aren't learning how to balance school. They're not getting this. And so their opportunity to learn is limited. So you need to combine old school with new school. All right. If these kids are like, look, I need to do stuff online. Okay, let me support you. Let's do it. And teach me. Teach me, because I want to become more successful. And maybe work with them on that. And then if they do fail, that's okay. Another thing we don't teach our kids is how normal it is to fail, and actually how our success depends on it. Okay, the reason why we fall as kids is it teaches us how to get up and balance. The reason why we burn ourselves on stoves is because that's nature's way of teaching us you don't touch a stove. Now, I don't want these kids burning themselves on stoves but let them make a mistake. You could warn them right before if you want to, but, to protect them. But be more of a coach and a guide as opposed to a dictator with them. And I think it's going to get you farther. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.